Yo, this is Bench Gamer here. So this will likely be the last video I make on the skin color issue for Sumeru and Genshin Impact. I think I've said most of what I wanted to say. I've covered most of the leaks that are relevant, and I think this video is just going to be talking about some of my own personal opinions. If you didn't think I was being personal enough in the past few videos, some of the things I may have missed and not said in the past few videos that I wanted to say but didn't really get to for whatever reason, and some of the comments that came up in the videos as well. So yeah, this is just going to be my personal take, my very, very personal, no holds barred personal take on skin color and all that. Now, just a bit of disclaimer or just a bit of context. Before I made these videos, I kind of came into this expecting little to nothing. And that was part of why I was so surprised by the backlash. Like, you might think that I fully expected fully expected the backlash to the skin color shit, but I just assumed that people knew that all of these characters would be white. In fact, I actually feel like Mihoyo has exceeded my expectations in terms of how they portray darker skinned characters. This might sound crazy to you because I keep on talking about this stuff in the past 3 videos, and I feel like I always sound disappointed, but I'm not, because fundamentally I have considered Mihoyo a pretty sus company, a pretty suspicious and honestly very greedy, very self-centered company since at least the time I made that video on the female characters and how they're portrayed and evil characters in Genshin Impact. So it's no surprise to me that Genshin Impact would be heading down this way. I don't think it was a surprise at all, and I was actually quite surprised when people were like, wow, why are these characters all white? Because I have been following the leaks forever, right? I knew all of this stuff was going to happen. I knew the moment that I read that tweet that, the first four characters would all, that the first four characters that leaked would all be pale or white skin, whichever one you want to call it. I knew all that shit was going to happen. What I didn't know that we would actually get a darker skin character, because I thought that Shinyan and Kaya would just be the one-offs, right? They made two characters who are darker skinned. Why would they make more? um it's not like it makes them more money, and that's really at the core of it, isn't it? It's just making money. It's just money, 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 money. You can't give free primo gems. You can't do anything unless it costs money. You can't give people primo gems. You can't do any of that without them shilling for you somehow. You've got to stream this game for 24 hours to get like 20 primo gems. If you're a streamer, you got to do all this nonsense. this this company, Mihoyo, is very selfish. It's very self-centered. It's very financially driven, as is all companies that are their size. It's just how it is. So again, none of this comes as a surprise to me, and Mihoyo exceeded my expectations. So why did I make all these videos about skin color, and all these past videos about like female characters and how they're portrayed, and evil characters and how they're portrayed? Well, the thing is, I really empathize with the people who are mad at this kind of stuff, and their opinions affect my enjoyment of the game. So when I see people on Twitter going like, "Oh my god, this is so disappointing. Why are these characters who I'd been so looking forward to, why are they all like all so pale, or all don't look like the characters that I expected them to, because this region is based off of the Middle East and South Asia. So logically speaking, shouldn't they be like darker skinned? Shouldn't I be, represented, or shouldn't these characters look the way that I thought they would? Not saying that they should be. I've seen some pretty sus stuff on Twitter. Like sometimes people just do like really clumsy and really badly trans uh not transitions, but just turning these characters who are pale skinned into like dark skinned. And I think this is actually not a very good thing to do. I don't like changing people's artworks. This is not, I don't know what it is about it, but I don't like seeing artworks changed, at least in a clumsy way. I've seen some pretty good changes to Kusanali. Not that, not like in the way that their skin is literally changed all the way to like the darkest skin ever. If that offends you, I'm sorry, but I just don't think it looks good, because one, it's clumsy. It's obvious that somebody just photoshopped it, but I have seen some good ones, and you can find them on the site, on Twitter. They are legitimately good like changes to Kusanali that I consider like logically and legitimately superior to the original work, because they suit like a professional sense of artistic uh capability. Like I don't know what to call it, but I think from an empirical artistic point of view, some of the changes actually do look legitimately better than the original Kusanali. They're not like changing her into an adult character. They're not changing her skin to like the darkest of the dark skinned, because I don't think that is representative of like the Middle East and South Asia either. It's just really ham-fisted and really kind of kind of distasteful. But there are artworks that do it in an artistic and tasteful way, and I do think these artworks are better. I can't really like show you right now. I'm sitting back in my chair and just relaxing, so I'm just talking with like everything with just I'm just relaxing, man. So I feel the disappointment of people, and I want them to be happy, just like I am happy while playing Genshin Impact. That is all this has ever been. I just want to explain like the motivations and the possibilities going forward. Not all of this is going to be good, because I see so much shit coming out on Twitter and on Reddit, on YouTube, where people are just saying things that are not really empirically proven, and I'm afraid that people will go into this even more disappointed. Like imagine how disappointed people are now with like the skin colors of these characters right now. And now imagine how disappointed people will be when they actually get drip marketed and come out. When the vast majority of people actually get to see them, the people who don't pay attention to leaks, the people who don't want to see leaks. I just I just feel bad, like for not just for these people, but I feel bad that their disappointment is also affecting me. Because Genshin Impact has always been about this fantasy world, right? People say a lot of dumb shit like oh, it's just a fantasy, it doesn't matter, but the fantasy has to cater to some aspect of a person's desires, and if they don't cater to the desires of these other players and they get upset, I legitimately get upset over it too, not because I have some fundamental problem with how they're portraying these characters, but that they do not fulfill the fantasy of others, if that makes sense. And then I look into it and I'm like, oh shit, Mihoyo is not making dark skinned characters because, it doesn't make as much money. Or there's no real lore reason why they should look this way or why they should be portrayed this way. And I go searching and searching for it for some reason because I want to drink that copium wine. I want to take that copium pill. But then I find shit like Tsuyuko. I made a tweet about this, right? I've had arguments in the past with Warhammer nerds who just try to explain how like women are portrayed in the Warhammer universe based on the lore of Warhammer, and it's always some fucked up bullshit. Like they will try to justify it based on the internal lore of Warhammer without ever mentioning that Warhammer is literally written by a bunch of nerds in a room. So this is a tweet I wrote like 3 or 4 days ago. I'll just read it off. I have to get this off my mind and forgot to mention in the vid. Lore is not an important reason, an appropriate reason to justify how a character is portrayed in fiction. I have had this shitty argument with Warhammer nerds, trying to explain how bikini armor is lore accurate and not because horny guys. So I was a bit more like aggressive here than I feel now, but the the point stands. The lore is created by people. Lore is not like it doesn't come into existence in a vacuum. I know this because I tried to be a writer. I tried to do this whole like book writing shit, but it didn't work out. I'm not good at it. But fundamentally, these stories are created by real people with real motivations. And when you're talking about a company product and not just the result of one person writing shit, it becomes doubly important to understand this. The way things are in a world like Genshin Impact is not because of one person and their artistic vision. You gain nothing by saying, "Oh, let's just stay true to the artistic vision." Why are you complaining? Don't you want the true artistic vision? Well, here's the problem. Their artistic vision is filtered through the company lens. They're filtered through how much money it will make. They're filtered through, is this profitable or not? So there's nothing intrinsically moral about respecting this piece of artwork. It's there to make money. So I don't see the benefit of just saying that it's a fantasy, especially a fantasy made by a corporation such as Mihoyo. Anyways, I go on to say I do not believe there is something fundamentally wrong with designing something just because it will be sexy either. Right. Another thing that people I think get the wrong impression of me is that I'm like an SJW. I don't give a shit about pronouns. I never have. Like I get so confused by pronouns. I don't understand like this LGBT pronoun nonsense. And I don't buy the fact that like designing sexy characters is like a bad thing, because personally I jerk off to hentai. It's just what I am. I'm a degenerate, to be frank. So if people have a problem with that, then fuck them, I guess. But I do have a problem when people are being hypocrites about it. Like you call someone out about it, and then they're like, well, just 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 to go through this whole process of mental gymnastics, like what I said about the Warhammer nerds. I've legitimately had conversations where they just try to justify these like sexualization of characters through in-game lore, when the obvious answer is it's because there are a bunch of horny guys in a room jerking off to like this character and creating these characters. That's how it works. There are animes that like Kill la Kill, I think. I watched like half the episodes, but there are in-game, not in-game, but in anime lore reasons why they are so scantily clad and they look the way they do. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I actually enjoy the aesthetics of Kill la Kill, but even though it is like satire, it's still at the end of the day there to like sell models and to make the characters attractive. So I just find the whole hypocrisy of not admitting that the characters are designed the way they look because they're there to attract weebs and like pretty much anybody who likes attractive characters. And I just wish that people would stop being so hypocritical. I can't speak. Just so hypocritical about it. Just admit it. Just say it. Just be a man for once. I just wish people would fucking say it instead of going through mental gymnastics. Genshin women are designed the way they are to sell megabucks. That's how it works. And the same goes for skin color. If they don't even have like one dark skinned 5-star character for Sumeru, the region based on the Middle East and South Asia, then I think you're fooling yourself if you don't see Mihoyo's priorities. And I still stand by that statement. You don't believe They don't believe dark skin will sell well. Again, also something I stand by now. It's that simple. There is no lore justifying dark skin equals less stars. Now, if you don't know, if you haven't been following the leaks religiously like I have, then you probably don't know that they actually are going to be releasing darker skin characters in Sumeru. Despite all the complaints, all the controversy, all the blah 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 that's been going on in the past few days, Genshin Impact will be releasing darker skin characters in Sumeru. It's just that they're in the very small minority as of now. Like 8 to 9 characters appearances and names have been revealed. We know that there will be one darker skinned character called Kandake or Candace. She's going to be the first Hydro polearm user, a 4-star. So there's going to be at least one darker skinned character. And I have heard, according to leaks, that she will be on the same spectrum of the skin tone as Xingyan. So if you're looking forward to that, then great. I feel happy for you. But at the same time, there's pretty much nothing else confirmed. The vast majority of the other characters, the 6 to 7 other characters, are, light skin. And I've gone into detail about how that might be because of the geographical region they're associated with the darker skinned characters being associated with the desert and the lighter skinned characters associated with the rainforest. But the fact still stands that the darker skinned characters are in the vast minority. The very, very small minority, I mean. There's also going to be Dahlia, who is tan leaning, and Sino, who is barely any darker than Bennett. So there you go, darker skinned characters, woohoo! But the problem is that they are basically all 4 stars. Like, if we are being generous and include Dahlia and Sino within the very, very small pantheon of dark skinned characters in Genshin Impact, then There are only four darker skin characters with like these four darker skin characters are 4 stars, and only one is 5 star, the lightest of them all, Sino. And that's just kind of weird. I don't know how to explain this very well, but if you consider how big the roster is in Genshin Impact now, like there's 45 to 50 characters now, I believe, and roughly a bit more than half of those characters are 5 stars. So over 50%, I think it's 26 or 27 characters that are 5 stars now, and 23 or 24 characters that are 4 stars. So roughly a bit more than half of the characters in Genshin Impact are 5 stars. Now, of the 5 darker skin characters in this game, only one is a 5 star, and that is the lightest character of the 5. And the 4 other characters are all 4 stars. Not only that, like 2 of the characters are both female pyro claymore wielding characters. So I don't know how they make those decisions. Maybe it's like some kind of stereotype. I've seen like people tweeting about that or whatever. I'm not really sure, but that seems pretty sus to me as well. Like, couldn't they have at least made her like a different gender or use a different weapon than Xingyan? It just seems so weird. Like, why would you do that? You know. Anyways, well, when you think about it, Mihoyo isn't really shy about creating the same types of characters. We've had like 3 Hydro Catalyst users now. So I guess that's not too big of a deal because they just tend to reuse these stereotypes anyways. So it is what it is. Anyways, next. My next tweet is intentionally designed that way. There is no lore as of now that says rainforest equals light skin. They made it that way on purpose. Tropical forests in real life exist in places where people are dark skinned. White skin in Sumeru goes against anything known in real life in Teyvat so far. Yeah. Yeah, I made this tweet because I was really bothered by people saying that it's just a fantasy and, nothing in real life matters in that, right? Except that's not really how it works because, again, as I explained, these things are written and created by people who take inspiration from real life. It's not like all of these things just come out of nowhere. They don't come into existence into a vacuum. They did the research on like the Persian inspired clothing. They did the research on architecture. They did all of that except, actually making the characters look remotely like the skin tones of the actual people. So that's kind of weird too. But I guess you could just put it down to artistic vision or whatever. So I went searching for lore that will actually confirm or deconfirm like the idea that it's just a fantasy, but what I found was kind of different. Because I found this. Remember that time you talked to Tsuyuko for that quest in Watatsumi? Yeah. There was this quest called the Heart of Watatsumi, and I remember this pretty well because it was like kind of like a kind of what the fuck moment to me. So in one of the quest lines where you talked to Tsuyuko, she actually said, "The beauties of Watatsumi were known in ancient times, praised as the fairest of them all." And in the next line, she says, "This, of course, being mostly a consequence of our ancestors' lack of sunlight in the depths of Enkanomia." So unless she just has absolutely no idea how like biology or skin color works in the world of Teyvat, I'm pretty sure she is just basing this off of what we know in real life, which is that people who live in places with less sunlight are obviously lighter skinned, and people who live in places with more sunlight are obviously darker skinned. That makes a lot of sense because that's how it works in real life. And that's according to this tweet, not tweet, but this quest line. It seems like she thinks that's how it works in Teyvat as well. So I'm not really sure about that idea that it's just a game world and it has no relation to our own world. That seems kind of bunk to me. Yeah. Of course, they changed this line, maybe for, I don't know, for controversial reasons. Maybe they thought it was too controversial, or it didn't belong in this game because it's not childish enough, right? So they changed the wording to this. Okay, I gotta zoom in so you can see. The old text line said, "The beauties of Watatsumi were known in ancient times, praised as the fairest in them all." And then it was changed to, "In days of old, the beauties of Watatsumi were renowned for their soft skin, which would conceal 7 types of skin blemish." That's very different, right? No mention of the skin color or the fairness. Sorry, I got a burp or something. But this is actually the same thing because it's a direct reference. It's a pretty fairly obvious reference to a Chinese saying called 一百遮三丑. And this is something that is not mentioned but referenced in the original Chinese text, which says basically what the new translation says, which is that, something about skin blemish, soft skin, and would conceal 7 types of skin blemish. This is a reference to a Chinese saying called 一百遮三丑. And what 一百遮三丑 basically means is that once white, it covers 3 uglies. Colloquially, what it means is that it means having a white complexion, specifically in the face, covers up a lot of imperfections. The number three is just an arbitrary number. It just means that, the whiter your skin, the more imperfections it covers up. Specifically saying, specifically in the context of skin color and, what's going on with your skin. It's not like some allegory to, white people or something. That's just weird. So don't think about it as in terms of race. This is just a Chinese saying that has been fairly dated. It's pretty old. It's like something that has been going on in China since at least the Ming Dynasty, which is like 500 or 600 years ago. Or at least that's what I read on Chinese wiki. So this is obviously a reference to like Chinese perception of beauty, right? And I think it should be easy to say how they got that from the Chinese text in the game when translating, especially when paired with the second line of by Tsuyuko. So yeah, I don't think the change was not actually a bad translation, and the original translation wasn't bad either. It's really easy to see how they got to that conclusion and try to localize it for the English audience. I think this is actually a better translation if you're not too if you're not too hung up on the accuracy bits. This is actually probably a better translation than the new one, because this shit doesn't make any sense to an English reader, to an English audience. So now you know what it means. It's probably a Chinese reference, a reference to a Chinese idiom or a Chinese saying, whichever one you want. Anyways, at the end of the day, it's selective depiction of real life inspirations based on real world prejudices. You can't get around that by nitpicking and explaining through lore or some bullshit. Real people design these worlds and characters with real life motivations. There you go. I'm done with my TED talk. You can go now. Okay. Okay, actually, I'm not done. Let's just keep going anyways. So, somebody commented on one of my videos, I think, that this guy posted this comparison between this game called Dislyte, which was released in 2022, versus this game called Genshin Impact. It's a very small indie game. I don't think anybody has any idea what this is yet. But let's just go with it anyways. This game called Genshin Impact, released in 2020, was made by Mihoyo, based in Shanghai, China. Whereas Dislyte was also made by not Mihoyo, but Lilith Games, based in Shanghai, China. And what they're basically doing is comparing the skin colors of Dislyte, who has like 70 characters, compared to Genshin Impact, which has like 43 characters. I don't know where they came from. Where this number came from. I'm pretty sure it's in the 50s now, or at least 50. And as you can see, Dislyte has a much more varied number of skin tones compared to Genshin Impact. In fact, Genshin Impact has so little variety that you can easily tell which character is which simply by their skin tones. Like this skin tone, this darkest skin tone on the left is obviously Xingyan, and this one on the bottom right is obviously Kaya. And this one in the top right is Bennett, because he actually does have a darker skin tone compared to, the usual pale beige white skin tone. And this one is pretty unique too. This one is gray. And obviously that's Rosaria, because I play Rosaria and I noticed this shit. Anyways, that's not the important part. The important part is that this person is basically critiquing this saying that you can't really do anything about the skin color, because you can't really critique Mihoyo because they're a Chinese company and Chinese people do what Chinese people do, or China does what China does, and you just can't do anything about it. And honestly, they're probably more right than wrong. But what their problem is that they're saying that, well, just because Mihoyo is based in China, based in Shanghai, doesn't mean that they can get away with just having this few dark skinned characters and this few dark skinned characters. Because look at what this company is doing, and they are also partially right. But there are also criticisms that you can make about this comparison. Well, the most obvious criticism is that Dislyte is a much smaller game. It's a much less successful game, so whatever Dislyte is doing, Genshin Impact is doing it better. So maybe they're right with not having this amount of variety in terms of skin color. Maybe they've got it figured out. Genshin Impact, after all, is a multi-billion-dollar franchise now. Mihoyo is a multi-billion-dollar company now, and Dislyte is not. So there you go. Dislyte destroyed. But I do think it also makes a really good point that it's not really the lack of information that is like holding Mihoyo back from making more darker skinned characters. It's not because of like censorship of the Chinese internet. Like, how many of people already know that Mihoyo has bases all over the world now? They have studios in Montreal, they have studios in Los Angeles, they have studios in Seoul, they have studios in Tokyo. They have all these offices now all over the world, in North America, in East Asia. So even if they were just secluded to China, I don't think it's a really good excuse to just boil it all down to the fact that they're Chinese, and of course China does what China does without any regards to the rest of the world. That's just stupid. I don't know. I don't know where this sentiment came from. There are of course differences, but you should use some bit of logic when talking about this stuff. Which I guess most of the times goes out the window when people talk about China, but you gotta have some hope, right? Anyways, here's another criticism that Shenpai made on this tweet. He says everyone forgets one thing: Dislyte was never released in China. Now, this is a really good point. When I first saw Dislyte, I was really surprised because this did not look like a Chinese game to me. At least until I read the names of the characters in Dislyte, because every single line in the roster of Dislyte has like a Chinese name, and that's when I realized, holy fuck, this game is made by Chinese people. Except it didn't look like a Chinese game because all of the characters were not just like um more diverse in terms of skin colors, but their actual models just did not look like a game made by China. They were like very Western styled. Their animation and graphics were very Western. They looked like Overwatch rather than a Genshin Impact. So I then checked out Dislyte's Chinese website and discovered that this game was probably not released in China yet. So that confirms to me that Dislyte was definitely marketed towards a Western audience. How successful that was, I don't know. It's also apparent that Chinese players could play this game. I've read comments by Chinese players on Dislyte videos on Bilibili. It's just that they apparently have difficulty accessing it um, from Chinese servers, I guess, because apparently it just bugs out or something. I don't think it's censorship too, because they actually post their videos. Dislyte posts their videos on Bilibili, and then they answer the questions by the players asking like what can they do to access the game. So they do that. So they actually want Chinese players to play their games. It's just that they don't seem to value the Chinese players like customer base as much as they probably do the Western customer base. And I think this is a good criticism. But then they go on to say that they don't have to obey the bullshit laws. It's insane how a Chinese game dev team can make amazing character designs if the CCP isn't in their ass like with Genshin. Now this is kind of a strange argument to make. I've always thought it was kind of weird how everybody just put down like everything they don't like to the CCP. The CCP does a lot of bullshit, but I don't see how they are restricting the number of dark skin characters in Genshin Impact. For one, as I've already mentioned so many times in the past, Kaya is a main character in Genshin Impact. They are super duper lore important. Xian, of course, was as well released soon after the release of Genshin Impact in the patch with Zhongli. So they are definitely not averse to actually making good-looking Genshin Impact characters that are dark-skinned, and so far it doesn't seem like the CCP has done anything about it. The CCP has actually censored, like, oh shit, I showed you leaks. Okay, here you go. Anyways, the CCP has censored characters in Genshin Impact. Here are the characters they censored. There's Jean, Amber, Rosaria, Mona, and I've got to be honest, the way they censor these characters makes me suspect that they don't actually give a shit about the censorship. Like, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Like, some of it does. Like, Rosaria, okay, I can understand them censoring Rosaria, reducing her breast, even though it's not really reduced that much. Like, come on, you can see the fabric being pulled by her breast falling down. Like, holy shit, man, that's not that censored. And there are some pretty what the fuck moments, like, too, as well. Like, one of the things they censored about Amber was that they actually literally just pulled her panties down a bit and was like, "We got it, dude. We got it. She's ready for the world." And they released her. Holy shit, this makes no fucking sense. And Mona as well. Did you guys know that Mona's inner thighs were not this revealing? This revealed in the original version. They literally just changed it so that you would see Mona's inner thighs. And if you've seen Dahia's design in the leaks for Sumeru as well, you know that that shit is also fucking popping out. Because I know so well. So it's not very consistent in how they censor Genshin Impact. I'm pretty sure they do have some concerns with the story. I don't think it's a coincidence that in every single arc of Genshin Impact, the Archon essentially loses some power or they change somehow. I know that seems pretty obvious, but they always get their gnosis taken away from them. And I like my skeptical take is that this has to do with Genshin Impact trying to circumvent China's, I don't know, storytelling censorship laws, because China is very a-religious. It's very, anti-religion. So maybe they're doing something with that and they're catering to the CCP's sensibilities. I don't know. But to me, the actual censorship of the characters seems rather haphazard and rather half-hearted, because I'm pretty sure they only censor these characters because they show up in ads and in the first part of the Genshin Impact story. They don't actually play Genshin Impact. So they wouldn't know that in the patch that these characters actually released, Shenhe was also released, and I know this because I pulled for her, and she is literally one of the most sexualized characters in all of Genshin Impact. I know this. I've seen her under boobas. I've seen her side ass. Like that flap on top of her chest. That shit doesn't cover anything. It literally flutters in the wind when you move the character. It's so weird. It's so funny. Like, they literally went through all this trouble to censor these characters, and then they released Shenhe. Like, what the fuck? And they also covered the armpits of Jean, but then we got Yelan. We got Yelan, and you can fucking see her armpits all the way into the splash art. It's just all the way. It's all revealed. It's so blatant. And then they go and censor Jean, who isn't even like in the top 10 most sexualized characters of Genshin Impact. Basically, what I'm saying is that they don't give a fuck. It's just some old fucks at the CCP headquarters or whatever it is, wherever it is that they work at, creating like these problems that don't need to be solved to justify their own existence. Doing their lazy ass jobs that can't even censor this game properly is so bad. So no, I don't think it's the CCP's fault that there are less dark-skinned characters in Genshin Impact than you probably want. I think it's just that Mihoyo is priority. I can't speak again. I'm so tired, man. I need to go to sleep. I think they're just prioritizing the Asian player base. I think they're prioritizing the Chinese player base, the Korean players. Not really. Just the Asian player base in general, or the whatever it is. Whatever it is that they think that dark skin characters won't sell as well. So they have less dark skin characters, and they have less stars than light skin characters. Oh god, this meme, it's so real. It's so fucking real. Again, this is a concept artwork, not a concept artwork, a fan art of Kendake, who is still the only confirmed dark skin character. Who knows at this point? Maybe they'll change her before she releases. Maybe she'll be light skinned when she releases. Who knows? Who knows what Mihoyo is going to do? I have such low expectations for Mihoyo. Oh yeah, I think there's also like some artworks you can see. This is what this like concept art, splash art looks like. It's so good. Like this looks so good, man. I'm not even just saying that. Like I literally did not expect a Chinese like company to make this type of game with this type of artwork. But of course, it's not released in China for obvious reasons. They probably don't think it'll sell. They don't want to like waste the time and just market it to people who won't play the game. And from what I've read, the game itself kind of sucks anyway, so who cares? Yep. Shit. Oh, and, oh, dude. You know what gets me going whenever I read like people responding to other people who are complaining about the skin color in Sumeru or just doing whatever it is. When they're discussing Sumeru and the skin color issue, there's always this comment that says, "Just wait until Natlan. Just wait, guys. It'll all be different in Natlan." Okay, let's read something about Natlan then. This character is called Yansan, and she is currently the only known character from. Well, actually, that's not true. We do know some other characters, I think. Let me show you Vanessa. Right, Vanessa. Let's talk about her. She is apparently one of the children of Murata. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say about her, but people have told me that she's like tanned or dark skinned. But she's not. She's really just the same skin color as Sino, so barely more darker skin than Barbara. Like what are people expecting? I fully expect that this will be the normal dark skin color in Natlan. And why are people expecting more skin color, more different skin colors in Natlan? Is it because of Yansan? Like she doesn't even look as dark as Xinyan. She looks on the same level as I think Dahlia or Kaya. So I think it's very weird that people are just saying that you should wait on Natlan and they'll have all these different dark skinned characters. That's such a copium take. I hate this. I hate this because people are going to get so disappointed. Like we've already talked about how Mihoyo values money the most, and they cater to the Eastern Asian audience in China and Japan, where the standard of beauty is to have pale skin. So why do you think things will be different once we reach Natlan? Okay, let's go read something about Yansan's inspirations. Yansan's name, according to this trivia section, is a reference to the Orisha Oya, also known as Oya Yansan and Yansei, or Yansan, a deity in Yoruba mythology as well as Afro-Latin American traditional religions such as Candomblé or Santeria. She is a warrior goddess who governs fire, storms, lightning, hurricanes, deaths, and rebirths. All very cool. So let's look at what Yoruba people look like. This is what Yoruba people look like. They're dark-skinned. They're very black. They are black people. Very obvious. Now, this is what Yansan looks like. Obviously, she is darker skinned in the Genshin sense of the word. Not to shit on Genshin or anything, artistic license and all that. But if this is like their portrayal of Yoruba people, then I'm guessing this is the darkest skin they will ever make in Genshin Impact. And I fully expect that um, Kendake will also be of the same skin color as Yansan. I've also some weird shit, like people talking about Natlan being Roman inspired, but as far as I know, it's just pre-Columbian or indigenous America with some influences from Spanish and West African cultures. So I don't know where the like Roman inspired shit comes from. It seems like such an asshole. Maybe they saw Vanessa. Like my only guess is that they saw Vanessa and was like, okay, she was a slave in the comics, so maybe she's like Roman inspired because Romans had slaves and she was a gladiator in Mondstadt. That doesn't make any sense, right? Because it was Mondstadt that made her slaves and made her be a gladiator. So why would that apply to Natlan? Is it because they have like gladiator competitions in Natlan? I don't know. Apparently, like Murata, the god of Natlan, was into shadow boxing or something. It says Shosen mentions that the people of Natlan practice shadow boxing. Oh goody, so that means we're gonna get fist weapons. Or she'll just be like Hazo and use a fucking catalyst, because why the fuck not? It's not like she wears these fisticuffs or something. So those are my thoughts on Natlan. You guys who are all like just wait until Natlan or swallowing that copium pill about how Natlan will somehow magically have more representation that you want, or more darker skinned characters, you're fucking deluded. You're actually insane, because there's nothing that proves that that will be true. We know what they look like. We know what Natlan characters already look like. This is Yansan and this is Vanessa. Hello, this is what the characters are going to look like. And I'm pretty sure that uh Vanessa will be like the darkest skin that the average Natlan character is going to look like. Again, this is what the Chinese player base wants. This is what Mihoyo wants to cater to. And I know this very well. I actually do browse the Chinese forums on Bilibili, on Tieba every so often. And I will tell you that they are very into this like pale white skin stuff. Obviously, not everybody is like this. Some people do like Xingyan, and a lot of people like Kaya. But like every time I get into like arguments about this stuff on the forums, I'll get some really weird responses that that are pretty indicative of like how they think about dark skin. Like sometimes I saw this comment once that the person commenting did not like dark skin, but they like Kaya. So it's a very abstract appreciation of pale white skin or dark skin that they have. I don't know which one to call it, but they have to harmonize this idea that they like Kaya and that they dislike dark skin at the same time. Possibly because Kaya isn't really that dark skinned. He is like the lightest of the dark skinned people. He's pretty much just super duper light brown skin, almost red. It's actually kind of red in the game. And I do think it is lighter than how he was portrayed in the manga. No matter how much people say that's not true, I think that's true. And maybe even lighter than the splash art. Or maybe it's just the lighting system. There's always that copium pill. Take it or leave it. And then the Chinese like users will say, I say that I shouldn't even say that because I am Chinese. So let's just say the Tieba or the Chinese netizen users will say shit like that the NPCs in the game are actually based on Asians, which actually isn't necessarily wrong, because a lot of white people also say that the NPCs in or the playable characters or just anime characters in general look like white people. And they are also not wrong, because the anime characters are just so generic and just so ambiguous that anybody could say that those characters are based on whatever their default is. Like I literally have Chinese netizens on Tiabat arguing with me that the 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 NPCs and the playable characters are predominantly Asian looking. And I don't even argue with them. I just say that, you know, that's not how other people view things. That it's the default. It's how you what race you default that matters, because the anime characters are supposed to make you feel like you're the default. They're supposed to cater to your fantasy, and they don't get it. Just like a lot of white people don't get it. It is what it is. So instead of just arguing based on like preconceived perceptions of skin color, I made like these comparisons of the lead characters with the people who actually live in the regions that inspired this Sumeru stuff. So obviously you've got Iranian here, you've got Afghanistan, you've got Lebanon, Turkey, South India, India, everybody's represented. Burma, Samoa, no Arabs though. I guess Lebanon counts as Arabs. I'm not really sure. I'm not too clued into on this. But the thing is, as you have noticed, none of them are light bulbs. None of them are clay. Or white clay, whatever this thing is called. They look like Xingyan number 2. They look like this person, this more tanned, this supposedly dark-skinned girl in Genshin Impact in Sumeru. So What am I trying to tell you? I don't know. Just that, all these people saying that, Iranians are kind of white and all these Arabs are kind of white and they're all kind of pale. Yeah, they are relatively in real life, but they're not a fucking lamplight. They're not a fucking glowing nuclear reactor. They're not this pale. Nobody is this pale. Like, let's look at white people. Let's look at real life white people. Are they this pale? No, they're not. Not even Swedish people are like this pale. They've got all this pink stuff going on their faces, all this a bit of darkness around their lips, and they've got all these peach colors because they're real life people. They're not fucking anime NPCs and playable characters. They're not a fucking model like this. But I would argue that a lot of white people also look like the more tan characters in Genshin Impact. This Shinya number 2. Because in real life, people go outside and get tanned. And they experience UV lights and, sun rays and all this other nonsense that give off radiation, and that makes their skin color change and become uneven. So I would say that, it looks like Ukraine, Serbia, Hungary, Poland, Russia, all these people kind of look like this more tan character here, who is supposedly one of the more darker skinned characters in Genshin Impact. And of course, nobody looks like Klee number 2, White Klee, Nuclear Reactor Klee, Klee with the green eyes, Klee with the shitty stare. None of them look like this. Inferior Klee, whatever you want to call her. They're not that white. She's this thing is on another level of whiteness that real life people cannot enter. It's impossible. So there you have it. Skin color in a nutshell. It's complicated. Chinese people as well. A lot of Chinese people don't like dark skin, but I know this because I visit the forums. And of course, it doesn't seem to gel with reality because of course anime is not about reality, it's about fantasies. And this is the fantasy that Chinese people have. That they don't look like Xingyan number 2. That they don't look like actual Xingyan. And instead they look like whatever this thing is. And this thing, I guess. What is this? Ganyu number 2. Let's call her Ganyu number 2. She has horns, right? Yeah. Delusional. Just so delusional. Anyways, that's the end of my extended tech talk. You can go now. I need to go to sleep. See you guys later. Until the next video, I guess, when I need to farm clicks and shit. Goodbye.